You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Night Nation's only call-in show goes live now.
All right, hello Night Nation, hello Orlando. This is Andrew Phegley, and this is Knightline at Night. We're live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barr Law, assisting injured veterans get the help they deserve. Give Chad a call at 407-599-9036 or visit protectingvets.com. You can also call Travis Dever for all your new Smyrna Beach real estate needs, 386-690-1636. We're taking your calls, 844-580-9326, 844-580-9326, or you can use the open mic feature on the WDBO app. Once again, I'm Andrew Phegley, AP underscore Knightline on Twitter. Got Big Ben Stout here with me at Big Social 32, Roger Phipps at Night Bengal on Twitter. From the Santa Rosa Beach studios, got Chase in the studio, and on the phone we have Louis Pardillo, the CEO of Dreamfield. Louis, are you there?
I'm here. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you? Good to talk to you. First of all, let everybody know real quick, what is Dreamfield? Because this has all kind of happened very quickly around college athletics. Just the 1st of July, the name, image, likeness thing took effect in Florida, and I think pretty much everywhere. But tell everybody what you do at your company.
Yeah, so we are a marketplace that connects businesses and organizations with college athletes for an opportunity to book them for appearances, whether it be an autograph session, speaking engagement, maybe even a coaching opportunity, running a camp or working with kids at the YMCA. Anything that requires physical presence, that's what we do. We're focused on making sure it's safe and compliant. So we focus in on ensuring that businesses have the proper insurance, that they upload, that we verify. We host agreements in our platform, really to protect the athlete so that they're not getting one-sided agreements from businesses, since most athletes won't have representation or legal counsel to really negotiate with businesses. So we handle everything, including taxes, collection of payment, and 1099 forms at the end of the year. So we're fully comprehensive, and our focus is really on an advocacy side more than even a business. You could look further at dreamfield.co and see the athletes on there, and you'll notice they all have different prices. And the reason for that is we don't determine what their value is, the athletes do. And that's also part of that advocacy angle, is that we let them determine what their value is. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, and I think you kind of know, and I know the listeners of my show know that I'm not bought in fully yet on this. I was a student athlete a long time ago now, but I didn't get paid. I got a college education. I got meals, shelter, everything that I needed to be a college athlete. And I was fine with that. Now, somehow this, all snowballed into what we've got now. Not that I'm not saying that it's completely a bad thing. I guess maybe I don't understand it. So I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask. These are really more to quell my fears about this whole thing than anything else, I think. How does it change the definition of amateur athlete now that these guys and girls are able to charge for services and make money as a amateur collegiate athlete? So I think it's a bigger question of what's a fundamental American right. And to me, as an adult, if you're 18 years old, you have a fundamental right to be able to participate in the free market economy, regardless of
amateur status or whatever it may be. I think there's also a delineation of two arguments here. There's what you were saying as far as you were taken care of, scholarship, room and board, all of those factors. I think that's more of an argument of a revenue share conversation where are athletes entitled to get profit share from ticket sales or TV rights. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm not even making a case for that, but I think it's a separate argument than can an athlete on their own free time be able to earn revenue, make money on their own. And I don't see how anything should prevent that because, it's basic fundamental rights.
Okay. All right. So what about with the Olympics? I mean, the Olympics have always made it basically, well, I guess not in the last few years because they've had pro athletes on basketball teams and baseball teams. So I guess maybe that doesn't matter anymore as well as far as that goes. How is it regulated, though, that certain schools don't have an advantage? You're a UCF guy, you're a UCF alumni. You're well aware of the dominance of the Power Five when it comes to most things money. How does it, I guess, how do you prevent those schools from taking advantage more than other schools in this situation? Like having their big donors.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Like, I'm worried about, I saw something on Twitter today about how some Miami big dollar donor is basically funneling money to players to get them to come to Miami is basically what the thing said. I don't know if it's true or not, but you could easily see how that could happen with sponsorship.
Sure. And I think we see that at the professional level too, more from a large market perspective versus small market cap. So, you have athletes like a LeBron. Obviously, he went back and forth with Cleveland, but that was more of a personal thing. Going to large markets like LA, for example, where there's more money in doing endorsement deals in these large market cities. You see that also from athletes overseas going to the West Coast cities for the same level of endorsement that reaches Asian markets, right? Whether it be television or print ads, whatever it is. So I think you're always going to have, you're not going to have parity across the board, whether it be, P5 schools, G5 schools, or large market cities versus small market cities like Milwaukee Bucks. So you're going to always, there's never going to be a full balance across the board. Now, when it comes to what we're talking about specifically, I think individual athletes are going to have an extra level of marketability. I think you're going to see a lot more balance. So take a school like Alabama, and of course, all of this is theoretical. We're about to see it play out over the next few years. But take a school like Alabama. You have maybe someone sitting on the bench that's a 5-star defensive tackle or 5-star quarterback waiting their turn. They're not going to be as marketable as they're going to be at maybe a P5 school like UCF, where they can start maybe right away and be able to generate more revenue from their NIL than sitting on the bench in Alabama, where there's maybe 2 or 3 guys ahead of them. So I think you could look at it from different perspectives, but either way, we're not going to know until this plays out for a few years.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I just figured maybe you could give us a little bit of insight because it's very confusing so far. And you're doing that, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate you being on tonight. What if a player, so how does a less popular player prevent being left out of opportunities? Is there a way that they just have to market themselves more at that point if they're a less popular athlete? Say it's like a kicker, that nobody really knows. He may be a freshman or whatever. There's definitely going to be, you mentioned parity earlier, there's definitely not going to be a lot of parity between them because like a starting quarterback like Dylan Gabriel is going to make have a lot more opportunities than say a kicker or a freshman lineman or something, that people don't no. So is there anything in there to prevent that from happening where everybody can get like a shot, or they just have to do it themselves?
Well, I mean, in regards to Dreamfield, we take all college athletes. There's no cost to sign up, and it's really about driving your marketability. I mean, I'm really happy you brought up the example of a kicker, because if you look back a few years ago at UCF, we had Donald Delahaye, who was a kicker for the school, that was able to find a way to make himself marketable. And obviously it wasn't necessarily from his on-field play, but his content videos through YouTube, which obviously ended up being an issue where he had to make a choice between.
And honestly, as much as I hate to say it, he really started this conversation.
At least locally, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean he's kind of the messiah to all this.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of them. So there's a lot of people that have been victimized by the NCAA. From our opinion, whether it's Jeremy Bloom out in Colorado or Brittany Collins, which regardless of which side you are on how you feel about NIL, if you look into her story, it's absolutely horrific over a essential clerical error on a landline that she didn't use. $252 charge. They vacated 3 years of her wins, and she lost her scholarship her senior year. I mean, things like that. There are a lot of stories out there that kind of show, where the NCAA was on really controlling these athletes and making these decisions. So,
all right. Hey, we got to take a break real quick. Just hang on with us, and we'll come back after the break and talk a lot more about it.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, Andrew Phegley back with you here on Knightline at Night, live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Got Big Ben Stout here with me, Roger Phipps on the line, Chase in the studio, and we have Luis Perdillo, the CEO of Dreamfield, and we're talking to him about the name, image, likeness thing that's going on in college sports, just started last week. Luis, you still there? Just checking.
I'm here.
All right. So one of my other questions is, what's this going to do to the game day experience? I'm worried that there's going to be logos all over uniforms. There's going to be people wearing their gear that they're promoting and things like that. Are there rules? I mean, who's making the rules, and are we going to see stuff like that? I mean, out on the football field.
You won't. No, there's clear rules, team rules in regards to the team sponsors having the right in the media room as well as on the field. So you're not going to see that unless the school waives the athlete's right to wear maybe a polo with their gear. That's going to be up to the school. But yeah, it's not going to be the Wild West when it comes to athletes wearing NASCAR type jackets to a press conference.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, that's one of my biggest things that personally I would hate to see that happen, because you've seen that happen in other sports. I'm a big UFC fan, and back in the day, the athletes for there, had all the logos on their trunks and stuff like that. And finally Dana White was like, we're not doing this anymore, and took that away. And they still have their banner when they come out and all that stuff that they can use, but it just was getting a little crazy with all the stuff. So I would hate to see that in football. You know what I'm saying? I want to get back just real quick back to this, the thing I was talking about in Miami. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but supposedly it's American Top Team, who is a UFC type mixed martial arts company. And they're saying that they're going to pay every one of 90 existing Miami scholarship players will be offered a $500 a month contract up to $6,000 a year for every single scholarship player on the Miami roster. How is that? I mean, so kids are going to say, I can go to Miami and get $500 a month that I can't get at UCF. That doesn't seem...
So that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say it's definitely tricky because, fortunately I don't work in compliance, so I don't have to really make a determination on that, because while these athletes are getting paid, I'm sure, to do either personal appearances or do some social media endorsements, I didn't look into it too deeply, but if they're already determining is not the right word, but if they're already announcing that future athletes that haven't signed yet are going to get this sort of deal, I think that could be a potential problem. So once again, I'm happy I'm not on the compliance side. Because,
yeah, I mean, I just think that, like you said, it's a fluid situation. We're learning more every day and all that stuff. There's got to be rules, and there's got to be a lot of rules about this stuff, just to make stuff like this, that can seem kind of weird, not happen or whatever. It's just, I don't have a problem with people making money off their name. I don't have a problem with that. These kind of deals, though, where it sounds like they're enticing someone to come to this school versus that school with money, that bothers me a bit, and I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's basically saying it doesn't matter who you are. So it's not about name, image, and likeness anymore. It's about paying you to come to University of Miami. So Lewis is right in the sense of, like, the compliance side. They could get themselves in a little bit of trouble there, because it's not paying Dylan Gabriel
Miami,
for
so hopefully they do.
Yeah, hopefully they do. But yeah,
all that stuff.
But yeah, it's almost like not about who you are. It's not about name, image, and likeness in that sense. It's literally paying you to come to University of Miami. So that's a gray area that is going to have to be regulated and talked about.
Right. Hey, Lewis, we're coming up on a break here, and this one. Go ahead, real quick.
I was just saying there are rules in the state law that prohibit pay for play. So I'm sure there's going to be some talk in the next few days about that.
Right. Yeah, I hope so. We're coming up on a break. It's kind of a long break, but if you would hang on, we'll talk a lot more after the break. We have our second long segment, so hang on with us. We're going to do this break, and we'll be right back on Knightline at Night. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, back on Knightline at Night. This is Andrew Phegley, live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barr Law, assisting injured veterans get the help they deserve. Give Chad a call, 407-599-9036, or visit protectingvets.com. You can also call Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs, 386-690-1636. We're taking your calls, 844-580-9326, 844-580-9326, or you can use the open mic feature in the WDBO app. Once again, I'm Andrew Phegley, AP_Knightline on Twitter. Got Big Ben Stout here with me at Big Social 32. Roger Phipps at Night Bengal from the Santa Rosa Beach Studios. You can find all the rest of our content on nightlinesports.com. Also got Chase in the studio, and on the phone we have Luis Padilla, who is the CEO of Dreamfield. You've heard a lot about them recently with the name, image, likeness thing happening in college sports. We talked through the first half of the show, and I basically asked questions to Lewis, and I appreciate you asking all those questions, answering all those questions to your best ability. I'm definitely coming around on this thing. I just have my fears of things that will happen, like the Miami thing that we were talking about. Ben and Roger have questions, though, as well, so I'm going to let them ask their questions, starting right now with Ben.
Hey, Lewis, thanks again for coming on tonight, man. I really appreciate it. We were just talking in the last segment a little bit about the school's involvement and, are they allow certain logos or not. I kind of want to think about the flip side of that. So the athletes using their own school's brand in their endorsement deals or appearances that they get, is there, what are the rules around that? And on top of that, are there things in these state laws that require a certain percentage of the athlete, the money that they're able to bring in goes to the school, or does that vary from state to state? How does that work as far as using their school's brand and trying to gain endorsement or appearances of money?
Yeah, great question. So it's actually a two-part answer. So the first is the schools own the trademark rights to the logos. And of course, that's tricky in itself, so I'm not going to go into details, but the schools do own the rights to those trademarks. And so they have the right to allow an athlete to wear or to basically showcase that logo on images or not. Secondarily, and this is where it gets a little bit more complex, in the Florida state law that was signed, recently, schools are prohibited from assisting athletes in generating income. So it's sort of a vague question that's being kind of figured out right now, where if a school gives an athlete the right to use the trademark, are they assisting that athlete in generating more revenue than if they didn't have the logo associated with them? So that's sort of that gray area that I think when the Florida House and Senate come back into session in August, they're gonna create more more language around NIL enforcement.
And do you know about other state laws? I've heard things. Again, we hear all of these things fly around when it's kind of open season, and this is so fresh and new that I don't know whether or not I'm hearing true things or not. And forgive me if I'm asking you a question that you're not quite sure on either. But I've heard things that, like, state of Georgia, the athlete only gets to keep like half of what they get with NIL. Does that type of thing happen from state to state, where Florida might be 100% of what you get is what you get to keep it, but other states are like you have to kick back to your school some of these NIL opportunities?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting being in Florida. Florida was really, while they weren't the first state to pass a bill, it was California and Colorado, which both introduced bills for 2023, which obviously is no longer relevant. Florida was the first to take it, in my opinion, super seriously. And most of the states, especially in the South, basically use Florida's law as a template to create their own. And what's really interesting is that if you look state by state, it's almost the exact same language as Florida, but then they all add little caveats to make it their own. So in Mississippi, they have restrictions on, working with alcohol labels, marijuana dispensaries, illicit substances, as they call it. In Michigan, they use most of the same language, but they have a caveat that says you have to submit to compliance within 7 days of any sort of endorsement going live. So you start seeing those unique things, and every state seems to get a little bit more ridiculous. Georgia, with what you mentioned, they give schools the right to essentially socialize the revenue and redistribute it, which both Georgia and Georgia Tech, as well as Georgia State, have gone on record saying that they're not going to implement that part of the law. So, it gets a little wacky as you start going state by state. And, it's really interesting from our legal perspective. We have 4 different law firms that are working with us to really make sure we do things the right way and build out our tech to kind of create those sort of protections in place so that athletes don't violate school code or state law.
All right, Roger.
Hey, Lewis, thank you for joining us. By the way, I love the theme of the website, Black and Gold All the Way. So congratulations on making a great decision on that. I did want to, I know we're talking really heavily about regulation. One of the things that kind of popped up from the NCAA was that they were going to engage with Congress to attempt to put a framework and some rules around that and nationalize this. Have you heard any momentum around that, or is that just the NCAA puffing its chest or passing the buck?
Passing the buck for sure. Counting on Congress to really do in a speedy fashion to do much, especially with everything going on post-COVID, is definitely passing the buck. They didn't want to take that responsibility. I know they have a lot of pressure with the recent Alston case, with the whole antitrust worry. And so they're looking to just have the federal government regulate it, which, once again, you have 2 different organizations that don't move at a fast pace, and the states have have really outpaced, any change, and which created this quagmire that we're in right now. So I don't expect much to happen in 21. I think in 22 we'll finally have some sort of bill that actually gets passed or at least voted on. But I think we're at least a year away.
Okay. One additional question real quick on schools as far as branding support. We've seen some schools, some Florida schools, come out and try to lead the way on this initiative and create some ways to help student athletes brand themselves and co-brand almost with them. Do you see that as a problem as far as the rules are concerned as they sit today, or are we just skirting the issue?
I don't know enough about the details of that branding to tell you if it is a potential problem or not. I'm supportive of the fact that the schools want to work with the athletes to really build, who they are, because once they're done, they're going to need not just their education to fall back on, but that sort of entrepreneurial spirit to really help them in business or wherever they end up doing. But in regards to if it's editorial rights that they're working with the schools or whatnot, I don't have the details to really give you a full answer.
Okay, and then lastly, I believe I know KZ and a few other familiar names to UCF fans and the AAC fans in general are part of your team. Can you speak to a little bit of how they got involved and what the extent of their involvement is now?
Yeah, so Mackenzie Milton, as well as De'Aaron King, quarterback of Miami, they're co-founders of Dreamfield. We got together, I would say, around September of last year. I connected with KZ through his mom, who I met at a UCF event a few years back, and stayed in contact. When we were brainstorming how to go forward with a product in the NIL space, I reached out to Mackenzie kind of just to pick his brain, see what his thoughts were on it. And he really got engaged to the ideas, really ended up almost becoming like an unpaid consultant. He really bought into what we were doing and really helped us out. During that process, he introduced us to Derek to give his insight, and really we just started collaborating. And as soon as we knew it, we were forming the company together. They ended up becoming partners, and to me it's great. I know there's a lot of questions about is NIL right, wrong, that Andrew asked, but I'll tell you what, seeing these young men already planning for the next phase of their career, becoming entrepreneurs, and there's a lot that most people don't see. I mean, just their buy-in on helping with the tech and, process flows as well as our UI UX on the site. They've had their hands in a lot of it. And so now they're moving into the next phase, which is becoming, the brand ambassador of the company and really working on the marketing side. So, these skill sets are invaluable, at this point in their lives. And I think it's going to really help them in their careers.
Yeah, and I agree with that part especially. So that is a very good thing that's come out of this. It's going to give some kids an opportunity to learn about the business world and get involved in things that they haven't before. So it's not all. I don't think that it's all bad. I don't mean to come across like that. I just have my fears about things happening that aren't really horribly well regulated at this point. I think is my thing, and I know it's a fluid thing. There's going to be things that come up, and there's going to be rules that are going to be made because of those things. So I'm sure it'll all work out. So I appreciate you being on, man. Really, really appreciate it, because you knew that I was going to ask you some questions that that were probably not the nicest way to ask them and everything else. But we appreciate you coming on and talking with us. And I'll try to get you on our podcast so we can have a little bit longer to talk about these things once this gets rolling a little bit more, and we can talk about it more. I appreciate you.
Hey, I'm always happy to, and thank you all for having me on.
All righty, Luis Padilla. He's the CEO of Dreamfield, and they're helping a lot of college athletes with this name, image, likeness thing. We'll be right back on Knightline at Night.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Knightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this. We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys? My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong, spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Yeah, Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Knightline Sports Network.
And now, back to Knightline at Night on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Call now at 844-580-9326.
All right, Andrew Phegley here, back with you, back on Knightline at Night, live from the Dever Team Studios, brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Got Big Ben Stout here with me, Roger Phipps, Chase in the studio. You can find all the rest of our content on NightlineSports.com. Also got Andrew from Oviedo on the telephone, our good friend Andrew from Oviedo. What's going on tonight, my friend?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Well, I just had to jump on the NIL train. I know that's been pretty much the topic, but I was kind of curious. What is the one fear that all you have that now this is implemented? What is one thing you hope that will not happen that you fear?
Well, I'll go ahead with that because one of the things that I just don't want the whole college athletics is changing so fast in so many different ways, and I don't want it to not be college football and college athletics anymore. It's turning into a pro sport almost with now players being able to get paid for endorsements. And then now with the transfer portal, with free agency basically in college football, I just want it to be college sports again. You know what I'm saying? That's what I worry about, that it's going to turn into, it's not going to have, the aura or whatever that it had, before. Where it was about your school and that's all that it was about, your school pride, and you were winning and playing for your school. They shouldn't be winning and playing for corporations. It should be winning and playing for your school and your alma mater. And that fight song, you know what I'm saying? That's what made college sports college sports. That's what my biggest fear is. Ben?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to that. I mean, the division in the locker room that can happen when a player is putting himself or herself in front of the team. I can especially see that happening in football, but also basketball too. I mean, basketball only has 12 players on the team, 15 at most, and about 7 or 8 that are actually, major contributors. And so One of those players putting himself and his endorsements in a press conference or whatever that may be, and I know that there's probably rules against that, but just in general, putting himself and his endorsements ahead of what the team's goals are overall, I think that's what one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about and makes me a little uneasy. But I am starting to get over a lot of those fears as the more I learn about it. And quite frankly, guys like DG getting out there and doing his press conference the way it is the other day, it was a surreal moment for me, but it was one that when I was done listening to it, I was very much excited about the opportunity that for him as being an entrepreneur and kind of being able to be honest and open about what he's trying to do with his brand. I thought that was really cool, and it's one of the things that kind of made me more and more on board with this NIL.
Roger?
I'm going to be real brief and just say two things. One, basically, I don't like the fact that the NCAA punted the ball on this thing. There's no rules out there whatsoever, and that opens the door to a lot of things. And I think the secondary byproduct of that is I'm afraid that the schools that have large dollar, deep-pocketed donors are going to use that and leverage that in ways to separate schools competitively from others. And I think that's my biggest concern.
What about you, Andrew?
My biggest worry is that players becoming a me person. They don't focus on the team. They focus on themselves. And playing sports, I've seen that firsthand, people that are a me person, and it kills the sport for me. It kills my love for the sport. And that's what I liked most about football, especially football, is just the team atmosphere, playing for each other. I fear that people are going to become more me people with this.
Absolutely. Happening. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's putting money in their pockets now. So how there's definitely going to be some that are going to become me people. And then another one that I didn't really get to earlier as well that I wanted to ask Lewis about was what about these players that are spending so much time on this that they're not spending time on their academics or their, on football or basketball or whatever their sport is. You're going to see that. You're going to see people that are not going to, do that as much. So it's going to take all their time. All right, we're moving on. We got to go. Thank you very much. See you next week. Go Knights.
Charge on.
Charge on.